Hello, hello. Welcome back to this long-standing video series. Course in Miracles, yeah. This is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. That's from the introduction. So what we're talking about today is something that is wonderful. It's all wonderful. Today, we're focusing on a question, on one of the questions that part 2 of the workbook poses. There is a general question. Today's is, what is creation? And then that is designed to serve as the backdrop for the next 10 ideas that we see in the workbook. So we've done lesson 320. On the next video, we'll start with lesson 321. So for the next 10 ideas, that's lessons 321 through 330, what we'll be looking at are some very powerful ideas in the context of this overarching question. What is creation? Well, have you ever asked yourself that question? What is creation? Well, depending on how you were raised, depending on the spiritual or religious tradition that you were raised in, and maybe you were not raised in one at all, depending on how you were indoctrinated. Yeah, I'm just going to use that word for the mixed bag, right? For the conglomeration of all of the influences that really, really impact us, that mold us, that make up what we grow to call a worldview. This is the conditioning influence of the society that you're born into. It's the conditioning influence of your family, of your parents, of your brothers and sisters, of your teachers at school, of society in general, of the media outlets, especially these days. It's a conditioning influence of everything and everyone that surrounds you. And we reach adulthood and we discover that some of that has helped us to survive and in fact is highly beneficial, and the rest of it needs to go. Bye. Right? Because it no longer serves us. And we're drawn to practices like spirituality. We're drawn to meditation. If you are comfortable with and resonate with the religious or spiritual tradition that you grew up in, perhaps you take a deeper dive into that and go deeper toward the essence of the teachings and how you can apply them in your life. You take a deeper dive. And if that upbringing does not work for you, perhaps you find yourself seeking elsewhere. And we're all extremely fortunate here in the 21st century, because with all of this technology that I'm currently reaching you with, that you reach other people with every day, every world spiritual tradition that currently exists and in fact has ever existed is available to us right here on the computer. We have literally no excuse in the 21st century for ignorance, at least as far as information goes. We have access to information, then of course, so much of it is completely inaccurate. Or it might be accurate, but it doesn't serve us, and it's up to us to discern that for ourselves. You may have been told that creation was God taking 6 days, not 7, but 6, because he took the 7th day off. went and put his feet up in the pool, maybe got the floaty out and a little cocktail, and took a look at the palm trees and judged that it was good, and that the water was nice and comfortable, and that was good. And the very strong rum drink he was enjoying was good. And the tanned body was good. And the swimsuit was, decent, right? You may have learned that, 6 days, boom, 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 boom. That's what I learned growing up. I grew up in a couple of different fundamentalist Christian traditions, and I do emphasize the fundamentalism on there. Both of these buildings that I went to, both of these groups of people thought that their way was the only correct way, the only way to God. Well, come to figure out as an adult, there are multiple doors. Multiple, they're unlimited. There's no limitation at all, in fact. So one group cannot claim to monopolize the truth. The truth is not property. It's not subject to ownership in any way. So, to the degree as an adult you wrestle with that, if you're feeling that no one has the right to claim that they have the only approach, now I invite you to continue to sit with that idea. Because in seeking, in earnestly and honestly seeking, you will find what you're looking for. You are the answer that you're looking for. Look back on a couple of recent videos. We talk about this. You are the answer you're looking for. So let's elaborate. That came out very wildly, didn't it? Let's elaborate on that. Because we're looking at the idea of what is creation. Well, creation is the sum of all God's thoughts. Capital T. Who is the thought of God? If you doubt it now, doubt it now. Wrestle with that idea if you have to wrestle with it. You are the thought of God. You are the Son of God. In other words, God's creation, the extension of. Only love creates, and only like itself. This is a really important passage. Love creates like itself. Only like itself. God is love. You may have felt that deep down throughout your indoctrination and cultural conditioning, which we call our youth. It just sounds kind of funny as indoctrination. But the truth is that's really what it is. Not that everybody has evil intentions. I mean, some people do, but most people don't, right? Most people don't. They're just trying to keep this thing safe, right? I mean, really. Your mom and dad don't want you to suffer, so all they can do is bring to the table what they have at their disposal at the time. So forgive them. That's Jesus's message to you as an adult, and it's my message to you as an adult. Yeah, forgive them. You only got what you got, right? So when we return to the thought of creation, love is the creative force. God is the creator. It being love only creates like itself. So love is also limitless. It is completely free. It's without boundaries and limitations of any kind. What do we do in the world? Well, we have what we consider in the Course calls special relationships, where some people and some political parties, some sports teams are held out for a higher esteem and regard and worthy of love, where everyone else can go straight to hell. Yeah. To use some widely recognizable examples, a special relationship separates. Love does not separate. It is creation. So if you're doing the verbal math, I invite you to look at paragraph 4 here to confirm what you may be thinking. This is paragraph 4. It's numbered paragraph 4 in question 11 here, part 2 of the workbook. What is creation? We are creation, we the sons of God. Paragraph 4, sentence 1. We are creation, we are the sons of God. Any questions? We only appear to be disparate. We only appear to be separated and cut off. And the word that we love to use in common parlance, individuals. There is no individual. There is no separation of any kind. How can there be? It's simply an ego-based idea that we use to run amok in the world. Now, it's true that here in the world, there are multiple different paths for everyone, which is why I often return to my fundamentalist Christian upbringing and insist that no one building monopolizes the truth. That is absolutely not the case. Look at the number of world spiritual traditions that are out there and ones that are being created and developed and downloaded every day. Why? Because there are 8+ billion of us. One person's tradition is not going to resonate with someone else. Someone on the other side of the globe may never hear of your building. Are they not equally worthy of God's love? The answer is yes, of course they are. You want to know why? They are God's love, and so are you. When I insist that there's no separation of any kind, I mean that literally. This is true and always has been true, despite all of our appearances, despite physical appearances, despite the fact that the body's eyes see separate bodies. They do. That our indoctrination tells us that we're all separate from each other, that we're competing for what appear to be limited and finite resources. This is what our social conditioning and upbringing insists on. So it's the framework in which we begin unlearning. That is what spiritual practice is it not? It's unlearning. It's stripping things down so that only the essence is left, so that only you are left. You are the answer you're looking for. You are creation. A Course in Miracles puts it this way. I find it very helpful, and perhaps you may too. What we're about here is removing the barriers, removing blockages to our awareness of love's presence. We're peeling the layers, so to speak. We're removing the veil. We're cutting through and lifting a fog bank. Incidentally, we're cutting through it by just walking through it and realizing that no matter how black and dreary and imposing it may look, it's nothing but a passing cloud. That's the same with all of our psychodrama. We've made it all up. We can choose to recognize that and set it aside. That is what spiritual practice is. We're removing the barriers to our awareness of love's presence. Who are we? Well, we're love itself. We are the thought of God. You are creation. Love can only create like itself. This does mean that you, the who you really are, is endowed with all of the limitlessness, all of the boundlessness, the love, and the power of God Himself. Perfect love does not know any separation. There is no separation. None. So, as always, here, I invite you to take a look at what Jesus says here. There are 5 paragraphs worth of material, and please don't allow the fact that it's more than 1 paragraph to disrupt you. You have reached the lesson 320 we just did. You've reached nearly the end of the workbook. So if you're hearing that voice of, oh, I don't have time for this, yeah, you do. You do have time for it. Ours is only to choose to make the time to do it. And I invite you to read through what Jesus has to say here more than once, if you're so inclined, because I think that that's really valuable in any field of endeavor, in any form of learning, is to go over something more than once. Right? You might be doing this workbook for the 2nd, 3rd, or the 25th time. I don't know, right? A number of you have been at this for decades, which is beautiful because every time you go through it, you learn something different. You see things that you think, gosh, I don't even remember that before. I don't even remember hearing that. I don't remember seeing that, but wow, that's really hitting home today. This is an experience that you're bound to have with this course, with this material. And the words haven't changed. They're exactly as Jesus dictated them in the 1960s and 1970s. However, you have changed. And the more you go through this, the more loving you become, don't you? You know, you're experiencing it. The more forgiving you become, the more you realize your true boundlessness, the more you realize that, in fact, you are creation. This does mean you have the same powers of creation. Not the ego self. That's not real. We're talking your essence, who you are, the Son of God. Use that term if that suits you. The thought of God, the extension of God. Really, really powerful stuff here today. I hope this is challenging you. I hope this really causes you to question every single thing that you believe about everyone else, about the world, and about who you are. Not this. What you see, what you hear speaking to you is not what it appears. We're using YouTube, we're using the internet, we're using words to communicate with each other. This is my function as a teacher. I use the world's tools to communicate. Same with you, right? You use the world's tools to communicate. We want people to be able to relate to us and our message. So we use the tools at our disposal. What makes them a good use versus a misuse? It's the purpose that we give them. What A Course in Miracles suggests is that you give all of these things, your speech, your thoughts, your entire experience, over to your inner teacher. He, she, it, they will make sure, if you do this, if you give it all over, that everything that you say, think, do will have maximum healing benefit for everyone that hears it. Now, when we think we're separate, independently existing, self-sustaining survival units, we certainly cannot guarantee a fully positive outcome for all beings, past, present, future. Can we? However, when we give that control away, beautiful, beautiful things happen. It's okay if you don't believe me. Try it for yourself and honestly assess. Spirituality is about that, isn't it? It's about being really honest with ourselves, because we're not a lot of the time. When you think about it, right? We're not a lot of the time. So I hope this material is having its desired impact, which is what I said earlier. I hope it's causing you to question the very foundations of everything you now believe. Isn't that exciting? Fun? It certainly can be. It certainly can be. Is this material for everybody? No. No one building, and this is not a building, it's a self-study course. No one tradition has the full, complete, whole monopoly on the truth, to the exclusion of all other traditions, because there is no other tradition to exclude. See, there's no separation of any kind. There's no little self. There's no other. There's no one to exclude. There's no opponent. You don't have an opponent. You could choose to make other people your opponents. You could choose to make a different political party your opponent if you want to. World's absolutely set up for that. You could choose to make an aspect of yourself an opponent, which, as we see in the world, leads to all kinds of issues. It's bound to lead to issues because there is no opponent. So let's sit with that and let that one sink in today. This is where I'm going to leave it for today. You don't have an opponent. Let that sink in. Because yeah, it does mean when you condemn somebody, who are you condemning? Yourself. There is no other. So here in a non-dual teaching, like A Course in Miracles, Jesus cuts right to the chase. And isn't that wonderful? Is that not refreshing for someone to have a presentation that is loving, very loving, yet still no bullshit? We've been bullshitting ourselves. I mean, really deceiving ourselves, lying to ourselves in denial about ourselves far too long. Time to stop that. Really, it is. And so what if that takes time? Really. Nobody is saying that you have to have a blinding flash of light and achieve enlightenment right now. If you do, please message me so I can have you on the show, please. That would be fantastic. If that doesn't happen for you, well, join the club, right? This is the function of time. Time is so we can gradually, if needed, pull those barriers aside. Remove the obstacles to our awareness of love's presence. Remove the obstacles to our awareness of who we are. We are creation. You are creation. You are.